Hello, learners! Welcome to MAGKAT-ON Corner. In our discussion today, we will explore the fallacies as a way in determining the truth. In determining the truth of any statement or claim, we must be familiar with how ideas are presented. Ideas and claims are often presented in the form of arguments. However, a number of arguments may be based on faulty reasoning or are phrased in such a way that they seem reasonable. These kinds of arguments are called fallacies. Some of these fallacies may be intentional, as the person making the claim is desperate to convince you to accept his or her argument. We will now discuss the different fallacies with examples. Fallacy 1. Ad hominem. Attacking the person making the argument instead of the argument itself. Example 1. Of course, he believes that the government is flawed. He is a rebel and a communist. Example 2. It's difficult to believe in his explanations because he was known as a dishonest person. In the two examples, it is evident that both arguments are attacking directly another person, and the focus of the attack is not on the points made by an argumenter, but on the argumenter himself or herself. That is ad hominem. Fallacy 2. Appeal to force. Using the threat of force or an undesirable event to advance an argument. Example 1. If this peace agreement will not be signed by the government, then we will have no recourse but to go to war. Example 2. If this request is denied, the workers' union will go ahead with the planned strike. The two examples evidently utilized a threat of force and an undesirable event on a hope that the speaker's point would be heard. That is appeal to force. Fallacy 3. Appeal to emotion. Using emotions such as pity or sympathy to be able to convince a person. Example 1. All these charges are baseless. This is just plain harassment. Can't you see how this is affecting my family? Example 2. Please allow me to take a leave of absence today because I am completely devastated. Clearly, these two arguments involve emotions. Example 1 is trying to ask for sympathy, while example 2 is trying to ask for pity. This is appeal to emotion. Fallacy 4. Appeal to the popular. The idea is presented as acceptable because a lot of people accept it. This is also known as bandwagon. Example 1. Every boy your age already has a girlfriend. You should go and find one. Example 2. Wearing a crop top is very trendy for teenagers. If you do not follow the trend, you will be left behind. In these two examples, it is noticeable that the argumenter is trying to convince someone by making him or her feel different from the many, or as if he or she does not belong, inasmuch as he or she does not conform with the popular. That is appeal to the popular. Fallacy 5. Appeal to tradition. The idea is acceptable because it has been true for a long time. Example 1. Marriage should be between a man and a woman. It has been so for a long time in this country. It should remain so today and in the future. Example 2. A white wedding gown is reserved for the pure bride according to our tradition, so you should not have worn white gown in your wedding. The two arguments evidently utilized a known tradition to make his or her claim powerful. That is appeal to tradition. Fallacy 6. Begging the question. Assuming the thing or idea to be proven is true, also known as circular argument, where the premise on which the conclusion is based is already assumed to be true. Example 1. I have a right to free speech, therefore you cannot stop me from talking. Example 2. The new proposal must be implemented because it was approved at the administrator's meeting. There should be no way for us to object to its implementation. Circular argument is easy to notice because the argument seems to circulate all throughout the argument. The thought in the conclusion comes from the first premise. That is why the premise on which the conclusion is based is already assumed to be true. Just like in the first example, the premise claims that I have a right to free speech, so the conclusion proceeds to be, you cannot stop me from talking, because of a fact which is already stated in the premise. Also in the example 2, the premise claims that the new proposal must be implemented. And because of this fact, there should be no way to object for its implementation. That is begging the question, otherwise known as circular argument. Fallacy 7. Cause and effect. Assuming a cause and effect relationship between two unrelated events. Example 1. Ever since you brought that sweater, everything has been going wrong in your life. You should get rid of it. Example 2. Today, more umbrellas are sold than yesterday. Tomorrow will be a stormy day for sure. In the two arguments, it is noticeable that the first event cannot be a cause of the next event since it does not relate with each other. Nevertheless, the speaker still tries to convince others by seemingly expressing truth in his or her argument. That is cause and effect. Fallacy 8. Fallacy of composition. Assuming that what is true for a part is true for the whole. Example 1. These cases of robberies in this district have convinced me that the entire city has become a den of thieves and criminals. Example 2. Professor Cruz of Riverside University is a genius. Riverside University's professors are truly brilliant. Fallacy of composition is common among us. We usually apply to the whole what is true for its part, as in the two examples. That is fallacy of composition. Fallacy 9. Fallacy of division. Assuming that what is true for the whole is true for the parts. Example 1. You come from a family of doctors and intellectuals. Surely you can do better in this course. Example 2. He is a resident of a troubled neighborhood. He must be a nuisance. Fallacy of division is also common among us. We usually apply to a part what is true for the whole, as in the two examples. I hope you enjoyed learning in our discussion today. Thank you very much for watching, and please consider subscribing.